share that has allowed me to deal with this and to be able to handle this and to be able to see light in all of this darkness is that in the early morning hours on the third morning after my mother's passing, I saw her as a drop of water, one drop of water. That was the form of my mother. And she was this water that birthed me and gave me life and gave so much life to everybody. And she was my love, she was my teacher, she was my comfort, she was everything. And then this drop of water evaporated and has now joined the universe, is freely flowing everywhere, and is free of impurities, and all the impurities are left behind in the stain of that dried up water. So she has freed herself from all bondage. And I see her in everything now. She talks to me, I talk to her. She's in everything. She's in my breath. And this vision of me watching her, being with her at all times, has empowered me and allowed me to feel inspired by her greatness. So for me, she has become greater than she even was. And so with that, I move on. And with that, I continue with my aspirations and inspirations. So that's all I would like to say in that I find
Great.
meaningful.
Yes. बहुत अच्छा,
Hmm.
अच्छा, बहुत अच्छा। सच में आज आप अपनी माँ को हर जगह फ़ील कर पा रही हैं, उसी की ज़रूरत है।
एक वही चीज बची है और अब मेरे को वाकई उनसे इतनी प्रेरणा मिल रही है मुझे। मैं बहुत 2 दिन तो ऐसी टूटी थी कि मुझे ऐसा लगा कि अब जीवन में कुछ भी नहीं है, लेकिन अपने आप ही उन्होंने ये रूप दिखाया मुझे और मुझे स्पष्ट दिखता है। So it has been very, very empowering and beautiful. And now I see beauty. I see her beauty because she's free of all those things that constricted her life. And she's free and beautiful and shining. And so it's beautiful. I don't know what else to say.
Ma'am, and you are also an inspiration for us. We salute your spirit because the last time you had joined us, you were into so much pain. You must be into so much of tension, and you must be into so much of dilemma that what to do, what not to do. But you didn't fail us, and you joined the session. And not only you joined the session, you conducted it very successfully. So we salute your spirit for that. वो जो जज्बा आपने हमको उस दिन दिखाया है, तो ये हमारे लिए प्रेरणा है. दैट आइडिया दैट शो मस्ट गो ऑन, दैट इज समथिंग you taught us that day. We could read from your face that something is wrong somewhere, but you didn't mention anything about that. And there must be a lot of things going on in your mind, but still you conducted the session successfully. You taught us so many things. So this is something for which we salute you. It was great to uh, learn this from you.
So thank you. And once again, I say it isn't me. It's the spirit of everybody that lives in all of us. And as long as I don't think it's me, I'm fine. As the minute I start thinking it's me, I'm going to be in trouble, believe me. So it's not me. It's everybody that keeps us all going forward. So thank you. Thank you for your patience also and for your offer to include me in your beautiful family. So today I am honored that my dear friend and teacher is with us today. He really has shown me what dance means. He has shown me what dance is from an Indian perspective, and from a Western perspective. I really am not a dancer. I told you the only class I've ever had has been with this great teacher, and I think I barely passed.
Not true. She did fine.
But I would like you to ask Patrick, if I may, with your permission, Manvi ji and Kaustubh ji.
Oh,
Patrick ji, could you describe to us what is it that Westerners find appealing in Indian classical music? That what attracts them to Indian classical dance?
I cannot speak for other dancers, so I will tell you what attracts me to Indian music and dance. And it's so simple. It's exquisite. And for someone who was trained in Western technique, in classical ballet and what is now referred to as classical modern dance, it's tapping to different synapses, tapping to a totally different way of moving. And I always welcome that kind of challenge. So, for example, in classical ballet, what you're trying to do is create leg work that is as expressive as a hand. But in Indian classical dance, anything that's from the waist down is the groundwork. So it's there just for the rhythm, essentially. What is expressive is from the waist up, and especially from the heart chakra, where everything comes back and returns to. And of course, Mukha Binaya. So it's sensitizing different parts of your body. While in classical ballet, you sensitize your legs to the utmost, and it's highly athletic, demanding great flexibility and strength and so on. The Indian dance virtuosity is totally different. It's based on the coordination of complex hand gesture with complex feet pattern, rhythmic patterns. So all these, whether it's Western dance or Indian dance, it's not a yoga. It's all a way of finding the essence. The essence. You're in the moment, absolutely in the moment when you're performing or when you're teaching or when you're moving. It's about presence. It's like yoga. And of course, Indian classical dance, they're magnificent, so highly developed. And what you have in Indian classical dance, which we don't have in Western dance, is a narrative vocabulary, all the hastas and Mukha Binaya. So you have
the story.
Yeah, you have the possibility to narrate, to play with the narration, to interpret narration with symbolic or even day-to-day gesture with all the mudras, all the hastas. So that we don't have, because in the West we have a separation of theater and dance, which has historical foundations for that. So the challenge in Western dance is when you don't have signifiers, is that what it's significance?
Yeah, significance too.
You don't have those hand gestures. You don't have any of that. You don't have that descriptive language. Your challenge in Western dance, if you want to narrate something, is to find an abstract gestures that will evoke what you're trying to say. In Indian dance, it's easy. It's right there. It's at your fingertips. And so you have different challenges. And if you're a dancer like me, not all dancers, some people just like to do one thing for their entire lives and that's it. fine, they perfect it and they're exquisite. But I love the challenge of all those different exquisite techniques. I mean, my Indian training started with Bharatanatyam, and I adored it. And I was always interested in trying to find a synthesis between my Western training and Indian training. And so I went towards Odissi because it's more postural, just like Western modern classical dance is more postural, meaning
What
the
does it
torso.
mean?
Well, if you think of Bharatanatyam, it's essentially gestural. Your torso is erect, and the gestures are arm and legs, not torso, and face, of course. But modern dance is all about torso. Everything that happens in the limbs in classical modern dance emanates from the core, from the torso. So you've got totally different ways of moving. And with Odissi, you have a lot, with the Tribangi, you have a lot of torso action happening, even undulation front and back, but mostly lateral shifts. So, and it's a rounder vocabulary. Bharatanatyam is really very angular. It's my guru in Delhi, she compares Bharatanatyam to Cunningham technique in modern dance, and Odissi to Limon technique, which is much more lyric, much more breath oriented. Anyway, you have an extraordinary tradition, and not only those classical dances, but you've got a folk tradition and you've got a theater dance tradition. I'm talking now not only about Kathakali, but you have those other forms in Kerala that are also extraordinary. And also one thing that I find very attractive about Indian music and dance is that it's rhythmic.
That is Mohiniyattam, I think.
Hmm?
Mohiniyattam. One dance.
Yeah, very lyric, also beautiful.
Yes, yes.
Mm. But you have other in Kerala. You have other forms. I don't remember the name.
Oh,
But
Ramanattam. Ramanattam.
yeah. You have tons of things that happen. You have a form of dance which is improvised. It looks a little bit to the Westerner. It looks a little bit like Kathakali, but it's improvised. And you have forms that are in Malayalam instead of in Sanskrit.
Yes.
You have a whole lot of stuff. You have and the folk dances, those stick dances that are in the north. I know you have a lot of stick, and even in the south, you have stick dances that are magnificent. You know where you do. You know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Like folk dance, like dandiya.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have, I mean, and think about the variety from Mohiniyattam. You go all the way up to Manipur, totally different style of dance.
Yes.
And Manipur, yet you have different styles. You have the men with the drums that jump around athletically, and you have those delicate dancers that like the
But why you selected Odissi and Bharatanatyam? What is the reason? There are so many dance forms in India.
that is a very hard question to answer, but it has to, it has to do with an unexplicable affinity that may have to do with my physique. I'm a short guy with a short center of gravity. So for me to bend down, and those two styles, Odissi and Bharatanatyam, you have to do Aramandi, deep Aramandi.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, that stance felt familiar to me. I don't know. I could tell you, for example, when I went to Indonesia, I felt like I had been there before. The body language, the short people with expressive hands felt familiar to me. Why? I don't know. And that way of moving, Bharatanatyam and Odissi, feels yummy in my body, feels delicious.
Okay.
It fits my temperament.
So did you try other art forms before making
I-
this decision?
I have master class in up there, Manipuri. It's not for me. I love it, but Manipuri would not be for me.
Kathak? Have you tried
Kathak is delightful. It's not for me. I like Kathak. It's not for me.
Yes,
Okay.
Kathak also.
I love it, but it's not
Yes,
for me.
yes. But how can you manage Western dance and Indian dance all together? How can you manage?
How do you
Because
want it to be?
they all uh, you are practicing to Western dance and Indian dance, but how can you manage?
How can I manage?
Both, like,
Yes.
many people can
Yeah,
do one and they barely keep up with one, and here you are managing and
but I'm
performing.
not really. For example, I teach classical ballet, and I've
Yeah.
taught that all my life, but I don't practice classical ballet.
But
And
are you practicing daily Odissi or Bharatanatyam?
I actually do my own mixture of everything. I
Yes.
do I do my own class, which includes a lot of it.
Class mane abhyas.
Yeah, my own training.
Acha.
So every day my wife goes, we have a studio in the basement, she does her class, I do my class. We have different requirements.
2 hours.
I don't jump the way I used to. Of course, I'm past retirement age. I'm most in Western dancers, they retire when they're between 35 and 40, and I'm close to 70. So there are certain things that I don't do anymore. Um, but I maintain my what is required with what I do, and I choreograph my own work, which means I can do whatever I want. And I, till the age of 60, I was able to keep the repertoire I was doing when I was in my 30s and 40s. But after that, I changed, and you will see also in Indian dance, most senior performers, with a very few exceptions, they do much more abhinaya and they forget about the tilana and they forget about the jatiswaram. They go straight into the varnam. Or in fact, nowadays they don't do the full program. You go to Chennai in December, everybody does a varnam and maybe a tilana, and that's it. Or usually padam and varnam, and that's it. I mean, the only one that I know that does the margam is the C.V. Chandrasekhar. To this day. I've seen him do fairly recently Araripu. I mean, the guy is in his 80s. So the more power to him.
Acha, Patrick, I want to know is in Western dance, mm, Margam is there?
No.
Repertoire?
In Western dance, in classical ballet, we have a repertoire of classics that were choreographed in the late 19th century and early 20th century. After that, so you have, and these are Giselle, Swan Lake, and so on. They're wonderful ballets that have evolved. I mean, if you look at the technique of ballet dancers in every decade, it changed. Just like Bharatanatyam. If you look at old Varnam, you would have the jatis, there 2 seconds of jatis, and then you have the storytelling. Now you've got jatis that are practically an entire dance. So the technique has changed also in ballet. The technique now in ballet, as in Bharatanatyam and etc., is phenomenal. It's far more athletic than it used to be. You do practice every day. a certain format in classical ballet, which I do every day. Is we call it a ballet bar. You're hanging on to a piece of wood, and you do your exercise, and there is progression. You know, we start from Aramundi to full Mundi, and then we do what we call brushes, tendus, dégagés. So you start with exercise where the leg does this, and a little later the leg does this, and a little later the leg does this, and so on. So you've got a progression that is set, been set since, and that started, you know, since Louis XIV. It has evolved. So it's an old tradition, but it keeps changing and evolving. The choreography is new, constantly new choreography, and we have pieces that are almost become classics. So even though they've been choreographed maybe 10 years ago, you know that these pieces will stay in the repertoire. And we have some genius choreographers from the 20th century that you know will be performed probably next century as well. So we don't have that amalgam. Each dance is a progression of its own. So we don't have à la Ripugia, Tiswam, and so on. It's the whole ballet. Or we create, nowadays it's fashionable to create a one evening on one subject. But there will be a bunch of dancers that will contrast each other, but they're not set. You might even choreograph all of them and then decide, gee, I think dance number one would look better if it were to become dance number three. You see how it works in terms of energy. So it's similar, but it's just not set.
Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
We have a question.
So I wanted to ask Patrick G, this lack of abhinaya, what you call in the West, face is our main, you know, when any two people have a conversation in any part of the world, from any culture, it's the face that we look to. It's the eyes that we look to. And so for Indian classical dance, it makes sense to me that this should be used, or it should be the vehicle of your most intimate connection.
Except that in our case, what we do is Angika Binaya. So, for example, if I want to convey laughter, I should be able to cover my face with a mask that is neutral, and my entire body should be able to convey laughter. But we work through abstraction, so I might be able to convey laughter with my feet. I can maybe create laughing feet. And that is what the contemporary Western dancer is trying to create. And sometimes, if the face is too expressive and robs the attention of the totality, which is not only the face but the whole body, then you are robbed. You're just focusing on the face. But what's happening with the feet? What's happening with the hands? What's happening with the entire torso? So, and also, Western choreography is very much looking at space expressively. That is that if we have, because we don't have the bells, we don't make any sounds. So we're not, if we have two dancers on stage, we don't have to match our rhythms. You don't hear them. But what we can create is dynamics in space. For example, if I have a certain person standing on the tip of their toes and creating an overcurve, I can have the other dancer create an undercurve, or I can create a diagonal in space by having someone create literally a long diagonal from one arm to the other, and the other person is on the floor continuing that line of energy. So it's very painterly, in the sense that if you look at a painting, the painter creates rhythms. if there is a figure on the painting, where the elbow is not accidental. Most likely that elbow will match the edge of a chair or the edge of a pot, or further down it will match another object in order to create a composition that is harmonious and dynamic. Well, the Western dancer is really much working in that sense. The importance of the space where you put the bodies to create a tension. And also, we don't work symmetrically. That is very Western in terms of Western art. If you have dancers on one side of the stage for a while, it starts to become imbalance. So you're creating a kind of a tension, and at the right moment, you have to counter pull all the dancers somewhere else in order to create a different imbalance. And all those imbalances, along with some symmetry along the line, judiciously utilized, then you create harmony through tension. In fact, what is now referred to as classical modern dance, which was developed in the early 20th century, there is a technique, Humphrey Limon technique, Humphrey Weidman, where what is considered dynamic is that moment of where you lose balance. So once you fall, it's called fall and recovery. The moment of suspension is that moment that gives you dynamism. As soon as you have fallen, you have stability again, and you have to recreate this moment of tension, imbalance, to keep that dynamism going. So it's very different, a very different way of looking at movement from Indian classical dance. But of course, we evolved in from the theater. You evolve from the temple, so it's different requirements. But now that you've taken Indian classical dance from the temple to the theater, in the past 20 years, you have made tremendous changes as well in your choreographic patterns.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. So
Oh,
many
yeah.
changes. They are they are adopting from Western also.
Yeah. Well, we all have to learn from each other and grow together.
We should
That,
learn from each other. We should
that,
learn.
that's such a great idea that we all must learn from each other. This habit of sharing should definitely be there, and it's so good to hear from Professor Patrick so much about Indian dance. Your views are great; they are enlightening us. Meanwhile, we have a question from one of our participants for Professor Patrick. We would love if you answer that. And uh, you, of course, have answered the question into bits and pieces in your discussion. The student, she's a research scholar. She's doing her research in dance. She's a student of Kathak dance, and she is asking that in India, classical dance form revolves around the guru and the god. We pray them, we move towards them through our dance in uh, total. Means centrally we move around our guru and our god. And dance helps us to meet our God. Dance helps us to connect with the Almighty. So, is there a similar kind of belief or theory that exists in the Western dance forms as well?
We have liturgic, well, historically, we unfortunately have had problems with the body. The body as sinful, the body as, you know, we have, we've cut in half the spirit from the body, and we have rejected the body as sinful. Um, Fortunately, in the 21st, 20th century, there has been a revival, and now there are some churches that welcome liturgical dance, but it's fairly, music was always in the church.
Can you describe liturgical for some of us? What does that mean?
Well, it's praising, usually always praising Jesus Christ. But this is very interesting because I don't know if you know this thing. Padumanaba Parama Purusha Paranjyoti Swarupa. You know this?
Yes.
Everybody. Yeah. So the sense in this is, as I translate it, a garland of flowers for the Supreme Being that shines like a lamp, and I say within our own form. So there is a recognition in India, and I don't want to generalize, from my understanding, that the presence of God is within. It's everywhere, but it's within as well. We have separation. God is not within, He's up there. And so liturgical dance tend to do a lot of this rather than this. And there are many reasons. Western dance, traditionally not contemporary dance, but classical ballet, uses gravity, but denies it. And this, the same way that, let's say, Bharatanatyam fits within the architecture of the Hindu temple, classical ballet fits within the architecture of, for example, Gothic, which is trying to ascend towards heaven. So everything denies gravity. It's up, up, and up. We don't sink into the ground. We don't recognize the ground. In fact, we have a strange nature with ground. It's dirty, you know? That is not the case in India, from my experience. I mean, we touch the ground, we touch the feet of our guru, you know? We have a different attitude in India. I have heard of Indian dancers saying to me before I perform, I see the deity in the front of me. So they have a personal God. I don't have a personal God. When I perform, I merge totally with the action. I become the movement. So there is no ego.
Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah?
I'm interrupting you.
It's okay.
I wanted to tell to the student, what is her name? I don't know. Kaustubh? Who is she?
She was Sumedha. She was Sumedha.
मैं एक बात गीतांजलि जी कहना चाहती हूँ. ये जो क्वेश्चन है इत्तेफाक से मौका लगा है कि उसने कहा कि गॉड और गुरु ये नहीं होना चाहिए. गॉड डायरेक्ट है ही नहीं डांस में. उसको ये कब समझेंगे? गुरु सिर्फ गुरु की इज्जत करिए, आप मानिए. गुरु को हर जगह आप करते रहेंगे. गुरु को खाना खिलाना, गुरु को ये करना, वो सोच के जो किया जाता है वहां खत्म हो गया डांस. गॉड है, मैंने गॉड की प्रार्थना है डांस के माध्यम से, पर वो तो प्रैक्टिस है. गॉड हर मोमेंट में नहीं होता. मतलब उसको इन लोग कब, आप गीतांजलि जी समझ रही है मैं क्या कहना चाह रही हूँ?
थोड़ा और बता. आवाज थोड़ी थोड़ी कट रही है.
हाँ,
थोड़ा अंदाज कर रही हूँ मैं.
अच्छा, मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि यहाँ क्या हो रहा है, अटूट गुरु भक्ति. ये सारा गुरु भक्ति की जगह अलग है, पर आप डांस के माध्यम से गुरु की भक्ति कैसे कर रहे हैं? आप डांस कितना अच्छा करके गुरु की भक्ति कर रहे हैं, ये समझने की जरूरत है स्टूडेंट्स को.
Relationship
समझ में आया? कौस्तुभ,
I guess what ma'am wants to say is that when you connect to your guru, you can kind of contribute to him, or you can pay your respect to your guru by just practicing a good dance form, performing a good dance form. Means the dedication towards your art is actually the respect that you have to show to your guru. Nothing
We
else.
don't
uh, Nothing, there is no other way out by which you can show respect to your guru, as in doing work for him, or working for something else,
we don't
or
have Guru Sheshya Parampara.
yeah.
We don't have that. What we have schools, and it's a mercantile
The
system.
business.
It's a business. However, you can have gurus that are incredibly generous and incredibly gifted, and also gurus that you may have for a very long time. But generally, the need of the Western dancers keep changing. So you may have a guru that with whom you study for 10 years, and then eventually you move on to a different. And also we travel a lot, so maybe you join a company in San Francisco, and now you have a whole bunch of new gurus that you've never seen before, and then a year later you change company and you end up learning in New York, being dancing in New York, and then you have a whole different set of gurus. We have schools in which children will grow up with several gurus that are associated with that school from maybe the age of 5 till the age of 18, and then they join a company at 16, 17, 18. And as I said, their career in the classical world will last until they're 35, 40, if they're lucky. Then they become gurus or they move on to something else. We don't have Guru Shishya Parampara. We don't have, I mean, we don't live with the guru. We don't clean the house or help the ama with the food. We don't do that.
It's very
But
much a business
yeah,
transaction.
just I would like to include into that, ma'am, that what our vice chancellor ma'am was saying, that this idea of serving him, or cleaning things for him, or doing anything, this should not be intentionally. This is
Of
not the idea behind that Guru Shishya Parampara. If you means, rather than doing all these things, or instead of doing all these things, even if you are just practicing your art very purely, that would
That is
also be respect that you will show to your guru. So when you start doing all these things intentionally, when you try to do those things intentionally, that yes, I must serve my guru, then that purpose is not solved. The the idea, the purpose is to take the art to great heights. To know yourself is the purpose. So
yes.
means I was attending a session of Sri Ravi Shankar ji once in Delhi, and in that there was a question. I'm bringing this discourse over here. It's just a very small one. So there was a question a participant asked, that why do we need a guru? And he beautifully answered that. It never goes off my mind. I always remember that answer that he gave him. It was such a beautiful answer. He said, I will not answer your question, because the moment I answer your question, I'll become your guru. So he didn't answer, and he answered at the same time. So we need a guru to show us the way, to show us the path, that yes, this is the way which you can go. Nothing else he desires for, nothing else he wants.
Yeah, it's
So
true. The true bhakti is in diving deeper into abhyasa and into the practice of the art. That is the truest of bhakti, and all good gurus will demand that, or expect that, or inspire that.
Yes, yes.
yes,
This is the essence of Guru Sishya Parampara.
Huh.
Yeah.
Hmm. Otherwise, it's very easy to abuse, also.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. इसी को समझने की जरूरत है।
Very
आप
easy to.
आर्ट फॉर्म को कैसे गुरु से ले रहे हैं, उस पर लोग कम काम कर रहे हैं। क्या सीख क्या उसको नहीं ले रहे हैं, दूसरी चीजों में उलझ गए हैं, वो
और
जरूरी स्टूडेंट्स को समझना।
उसमें ये भी है कि गुरु मतलब कितने प्रकार के गुरु होते हैं, अलग अलग अपने गुरुओं के भी अलग अलग प्रकार होते हैं, अलग अलग टेंडेंसीज होती हैं, अलग अलग लेवल्स होते हैं। तो जो एकदम उच्च कोटि का गुरु होगा उनके पास पहुंचना ही मुश्किल है। ऐसा थोड़ी है सब कोई सब कोई पहुंच जाते हैं उनके गुरु के पास। जस्ट टू रीच अ ट्रू गुरु इज नॉट इजी इन इंडिया। To find one and to be able to be accepted by a really good guru is not easy. But you can get accepted by so many random sadak, what you call sadak chhap gurus, na?
नहीं, और गीतांजलि जी, आपको आप सुन पा रही हैं?
हाँ हाँ आ रही, अभी आवाज साफ आ रही।
आ रही है। स्टूडेंट्स को मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ, जो पैट्रिक भी कह रहे हैं, कि स्टूडेंट्स को समझना होगा कि क्या करेक्ट है, कैसे हमको अडॉप्ट करना है म्यूजिक को, डांस को, क्या सही है, कितनी समझदारी चाहिए, क्योंकि ये तो मतलब मैच्योर एज में आते हैं, इनकी समझदारी हो जाती है, तो वो करेक्ट चीजों को, करेक्ट डांस को, इवन पैट्रिक बोल रहा है कि कैसे दोनों स्टाइल को मिक्स करके हम करें, या क्या ऐसी अच्छी चीजें हैं जो हम डांस के लिए सोचे कि हमको ये करना चाहिए। जैसे पैट्रिक बताते थे कि डांस के पहले हमको किस तरीके से बॉडी को तैयार करना चाहिए। ये पैट्रिक ने बहुत अच्छा बताया था जब ये खैरागढ़ में थे। तो हमको चाहिए कि ये हम लें। और अब हम बात करें 100 साल पुराना कि ऐसा ट्रेडिशन या ये, तो उस तरीके की स्थिति में आज स्टूडेंट्स नहीं है कि गुरु
तैयार नहीं, इस तरह की तैयारी नहीं है।
4 घंटा तुम तत्कार करते रहो, ये कर पाएंगे? कभी नहीं। तो ये इनको अपने आप को भी वैसा बनाना होगा। और ये चीजें खैर स्टूडेंट्स के साथ कभी मुझे ऐसा मौका लगे तो बात करूंगी। पर आप बताइए कि पैट्रिक से पूछिए आप कि वहाँ के स्टूडेंट्स जब ये सिखाते हैं तो इंडियन डांस के लिए क्या उनका इंटरेस्ट कैसा होता है?
She's asking that when you teach in this country, most of your students are American students.
All of them.
What do they perceive of Indian dance from your classes? What do they think? What attracts them to it, or how do they perceive it?
Do they like it? Are they interested into?
Well, yes, they're not. This is not a compulsory course. Okay. So if they sign for it, that means that they already have an interest. So I get mostly interesting students.
But they could sign up unknowingly.
They could sign up unknowingly, and if it's not their cup of tea, they will drop very fast, which is fine. But generally, they don't. They stick with it. It's only one semester. They get an introduction to something that is totally different from any other dance training, Western dance training. And generally, they stick with it for the semester, and it depends, but sometimes they grow rather fast. Of course, there's so much you can. I mean, my course is just an introduction, obviously, for one semester. That's all you can do. But there are already students who are open to multicultural activities.
Do you find that there are some students who, after having gone to your class, have asked you how to seek more Indian classical dance?
Yes.
And how many students do that kind of?
Not many. If I have 12 students in a class, maybe 1 or 2 will be interested in going on.
And so what do you suggest to them?
We have teachers in Kansas City, we have teachers in the region that are excellent.
Actually, that's interesting. In Kansas City, there are seven. So Kansas City is about 1 hour driving time from Lawrence, the town that we are in. The university is in the town of Lawrence, which is a small town. 1 hour drive is the big city of Kansas City. Kansas City is half in Kansas state and half in Missouri state. It's a big city. And within that city, there are seven Indian classical dance schools. Can you believe that? And Kansas is like is not a very
But Indian,
well known state in the U.S. It's like it's not like California. It's not like New York. Everybody knows New York. Everybody knows California. It's just a kind of a mediocre state. In this state, there are seven
excuse me,
schools.
there's nothing mediocre about Kansas.
I'm just saying it's not like well known in the globe.
Yes, but I'll tell you something. Once there was a kuchipudi dancer who came into town, and she was performing in a little place in the middle of nowhere in Kansas. And I drove there, and the auditorium was packed with Indians.
Oh,
Packed.
She came from India.
Yeah, came from India. And that was many years ago. So the Indian diaspora is huge. St. Louis, where I perform with a company in St. Louis called Dances of India. And the auditorium is filled every year.
Filled with Indians?
Mostly Indians.
Mostly Indians.
Mostly Indians. So Indian dance is quite popular.
And I don't think there are that not even two or three Indian music schools actually. So dance is more popular, and I wonder if it's more popular because it crosses the language barrier.
barrier.
You think?
I don't know. I don't know. But well, I know why.
Why?
Because every Indian family wants to have an educated daughter, and to have an educated daughter means that she must have her Irangetram. So you have already a dance school.
Yes, 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 yes. This
But you
is
can do
true,
the same for music.
true.
You can do the same for music.
But a young woman, should be able to dance. That is the implication. And I'm assuming I'm not Indian, so I'm assuming what I'm saying. But
Yes, yes, yes. But this is true.
But this sounds so pleasing to know that there are a great amount of art lovers also who are residing in Western countries. So this is something very motivating because if it comes to India and if there is a classical concert or a classical dance show that is going on, or a music concert that is being held here, then it takes a great amount of promotion or great amount of advertisement to bring in many, because only the true lovers would come, and
yeah,
at times the auditoriums might not be packed,
yeah.
might be the case. But it sounds very pleasing. It's very motivating. Meanwhile, we have a very innocent question, ma'am, if I can ask Professor Patrick, a student of dance, postgraduate student, Molishri Singh. She wants to know the way we have a kind of Bible, Natya Shastra we have for us. For artists, they always follow this book, this scripture called Natya Shastra. So, is there a similar kind of a scripture or Bible or books that are available for classical ballet dancing or Western dance forms, which
Yes,
you are?
they are. They're not as exhaustive. I mean, Natya Shastra talks about architecture, music, etc. We don't have such a book. We have several books that are dealing with each subjects independently. But actually, we we hear about the Natya Shastra, but in actuality, if you study with your guru, you don't learn the Natya Shastra by reading the book. It's oral transmission. You know,
Yeah.
you learn Tripitaka, Tripitaka, blah blah blah, but you never read the book.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
same same in
yes.
West. We have books on ballet. Who reads them? You've got a guru that tells you what to do, and you who corrects you and tell you how to do it, and nurtures you artistically. Uh, I think that emphasis on the Natya Shastra, and correct me, I may be totally wrong, may have had to do with the Sanskritization of classical dances in India. I doubt that in Orissa they were reading the Natya Shastra. They had their own tradition, probably Kathak the same thing, probably Manipuri, all those forms. I may be wrong, but um,
I have a question for everybody here. Listening to what Patrick G just said, and I think there's truth in that. That it's true. People don't really read these so-called Bibles or treatises or scriptures of these art forms. But my question is it true that even great artists don't read them? I feel like the great artists do read them. Like my guru, I will say, I think he knew it. And so what he knows, he then transmits it as an oral tradition without necessarily asking the person to read the book, the student to read. But he has imbibed that knowledge and he has also read it. So for us, the book reading happens when you are very senior.
yeah, same
Same
thing.
here.
Yeah, and in fact, I think in terms of Indian dance, there is more referring to Abhinaya Dapana than there is to Natya Shastra. That's the usual
Yes,
book.
Abhinay Chandrika and Odissi Abhinay Chandrika. Patrick,
Yeah.
do you listen about Abhinay Chandrika?
Oh yeah. I even have it. Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. तो गीतांजलि जी आपने जो कहा ना कि ये ओरल ट्रेडिशन है जो वो हजारों साल पहले से आ रहा है और नाट्यशास्त्र जब भरत ने लिखा तो उनका भी कोई ट्रेडिशन रहा होगा जिसको उन्होंने लिखा है तो ये ओरल चल ही रहा है साथ में पर अब चूंकि ये इंस्टीट्यूशनल टीचिंग
teaching.
चूंकि ये आ गया है म्यूजिक और डांस तो हम फिर भरत को जानने लगे या नाट्य शास्त्र को जानने लगे तो अभी स्टूडेंट्स को ये है कि उनको साथ साथ वो भी पढ़ना चाहिए क्योंकि हम जब डांस सीखते हैं तो कहीं ना कहीं उसको हम नाट्य शास्त्र के साथ रिलेट कर सकते हैं और हम उसको और अच्छा बेहतर कर सकते हैं जान सकते हैं तो नाट्यशास्त्र इसलिए जरूरी है जानना पर जो पैट्रिक कह रहे थे ना कि नाट्यशास्त्र की चीजों को सीधे सीधे कोई जानता है सिखाता नहीं वो तो जो ओरल ट्रेडिशन है वही है पर अब चूंकि सिलेबस है हमारा यूनिवर्सिटी के सिलेबस में इंक्लूड है और नाट्यशास्त्र जैसी बात होती है तो स्टूडेंट्स पढ़ना चाहिए
पढ़ते
उसको
हैं उनको
Uh,
पढ़ना
uh,
पड़ता होगा आपके सिलेबस के अंदर पढ़ना ही पड़ता होगा
हाँ
हाँ
पढ़ना
मैम, वो वहां भी तो पढ़ रहे हैं एंड देन इट्स लाइक अ गुड गुरु ऑलवेज एक्सपेक्ट्स यू दैट you will read it, at least you read some portions of it, at least you read some chapters of that. Means
Do your
being a
students read some chapters?
I have them read.
You
Yeah.
do
I have them read a whole lot of stuff.
in
because
ballet,
Oh,
contemporary.
in ballet, not as much because they have a dance history course that will cover that. But in my Indian dance class, there's quite a bit of reading.
No,
That is
Indian. No,
involved.
I'm talking
No,
Western.
Western, they have a dance history course. They have, so I don't have to cover that.
But they do cover it
Yes,
as part of
at the
the
university
school.
system,
Yeah,
they have to.
yeah. So it's part of the syllabus.
Yeah.
and means being a student of English literature, as in I have to study Natyashastra, some portions of Natyashastra. When we study Indian theatre, we
Yeah.
study that. So, and it's so great, to study that and to get to learn about your tradition, as in from where you started, from means what is the origin which what
Absolutely.
glorious past you had. So it makes you proud when you
Mm.
read that. So students must read that. Meanwhile, we have one question from Vijay. And this is again, it's a question for Professor Patrick. Sir, we are troubling you so much. He wants to ask you that how do you maintain your passion at this age? Is there any special diet, technique, or lifestyle that you follow? How do you maintain your passion for
They want
dance
to know
or
your
art?
secret. Patrick, too,
Good
they want to know
question.
your secret.
Very good question. Yes.
I am alive. That's this the only reason that I can tell. With age, I've gotten much more limited. For example, I don't do Bharatanatyam anymore. Um,
No,
what I do is what I
Your
do.
Gandharva dance is so beautiful.
Yeah, I do what I do, and
It's a mixture. It has some Bharatnatyam, it
it's
has some
demanding in its yeah,
Odissi.
it's demanding its in its own way, but it's what I do. It's that's what I'm focusing on. Um, and it gets harder, but this is the fact. I look at myself in the mirror and I don't recognize myself, you know, but inside I'm still the same person, the hair is gone and a whole lot of stuff has changed, but the love, you, if you lose your passion, what's left, you
Oh,
know? It's if you're alive and truly involved in what you're doing,
Very
yeah.
nice.
Yes,
it
yes.
goes on
That's
forever. You're like
you.
cook.
You
I
can
have to say though that from what I know of Patrick G and from what I know of some of the other dance faculty here at KU, Patrick G is constantly choreographing for himself and for his students. He choreographs, and he's constantly thinking because he has so many dance forms in him. The seeds of Bharatnatyam are in him, the seeds of Odissi are in him, and he has picked up little folk movements from across the world. You've traveled so
Mm-hmm.
far, you've been going regularly to Indonesia and to
Malaysia.
Malaysia and to Borneo and Singapore and Eastern Europe and so many places. You have collected so much wisdom and art form. All of that works in him, and he's constantly working on creating something new. And when we create, either through contemplation or through choreography, or when we learn, then our neurons create synapses which create joy. That joy is what we call passion. So when you quit this process of creating or learning, then the passion also dies. And so when people say, "Oh, I'm now old and I'm not that passionate," it's because they have stopped learning, they have stopped
That's
creating.
yes,
That's
yes.
why. And he is constantly creating. I'm still waiting to watch his new choreography, but I watched Gandharva, his one,
that's nice.
and for Gandharva, he went to Delhi and he invited the Odisha musicians from Odisha. The entire mandali
Oh,
came
okay.
to Delhi to record according to what him and his teacher had in mind to choreograph, and then to that music, live music, he choreographs.
Yeah.
So that he performed already, and now he's working on the second piece that I'm dying to see. I love watching his pieces because he's very alive. It's not like I made this piece, please appreciate. No, it's like I made this piece. What can I do to convey what I want to convey better? Always this question is with him. He's always looking at my eyes, looking at other people in the room, and saying, "What can I do to convey what I want to convey more clearly?" I mean, this kind of lack of ego, this kind of openness, this kind of passion towards learning, this is what Patrick G is.
And also to answer the question a different way, I'm getting far more limited. My technique used to be excellent, in all modesty. I'm getting far more limited in what I am able to do. And now I'm facing the challenge of being able to create, to realize my intent with what I can do. That's a new fascination, you know?
Mm.
And soon I'll be facing retirement because such is life. And I'm already thinking, I'm going to learn ceramics. I'm going to learn, I've been dying to do ceramics for a long time and I don't have the time. So if you have a creative impulse, you will find a way. And I don't think that creative impulse dies. If anything, it grows. But you have to nourish it.
You have to nurture it.
Yeah.
And he nurtures it. So
Being,
nurturing it.
be- being a learner at heart is very important. Always being a learner from heart. Means,
You
that
are
is
correct. Yes.
that creative impulse keeps you going. That's great. It's I don't know if our students understood that, because that is how, that is something that answers all the questions. That is something that gives you that explains your objective for life. That whatever you do, if you have that creative impulse in that field, uh, that will allow you, that will boost up to take you further. That's
Mhm.
great.
But if you'll allow me, Kaustubji, to just
Sure. Yes,
modify
yes.
your statement,
Hmm.
if you say, if you have a creative impulse, then some people can say I don't have it.
No,
Having or not having is is dependent on you trying to build it. It's not like you have it or you don't have it. It's not like it fell from the sky.
And also, unfortunately, I will speak about our system of education. It is built to kill that creative impulse. We don't encourage anybody going in different direction. We like things unified, controlled, set, safe. It's a killer. It's a killer.
hmm.
So you have children who are 5 years old, 7 years old, who are learning creative dance, and they are so imaginative. By the time they reach high school, they are socialized. The little girls no longer do certain things. The little boys no longer do certain things. And by the time they reach college, any creative impulse is dead on arrival. And fortunately, some people preserve it. You will hear some people saying, "I'm not creative." I disagree with that. Everybody is
It's
creative
creative.
if you get to that source which is within you.
That's the key.
It's not easy. Some people are complacent, they're happy, they're passive, and then eventually they're still alive, but they're dead. And some people want to be truly alive. So,
And there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut to hard work.
mm,
There is
Hmm.
no shortcut to thinking that, oh, somebody had a life without challenges. No. Everybody faces challenges. And anybody who has made it past those challenges. So the two things you have to keep in mind is you have the creative impulse, you need to work hard, and you need to be determined to go past all obstructions and challenges. Jai Ganesha.
what I
That
think is wonderful about dance is that every day of your life, you're trying to find a balance with your body. Literally, you have to stand on one leg very often. So you're constantly trying to find that balance. And in the process of finding that balance, you're alive in your body. So that's one thing. Then when you choreograph, you're alive in your mind, and or even if you're not a choreographer, but you're an interpreter, entering the experience of the work is so profound that it keeps you alive and vibrant. Anyway,
There is no way that I would guess Patrick G is getting near 70. He's so vibrant. And I see how hard he works. I see how hard his wife works. Very, very hardworking and very determined. So those are the keys to all successes.
They are great.
From students, I'd like to hear any questions from any students for Patrick G.
Yes, ma'am. There is one question, and this would be the final question for the session, and we'll move to conclusion also very quickly. There is this student, I guess, research scholar, Samrat. So he is again from the field of Kathak, and he wants to know that how do means nature is an important element in Indian dance forms. So how do you portray nature in Western dance forms or ballet? Do you have a place for nature, and if there is, then how do you portray that?
How do you portray that? Huh. I'll give you one example. There is a work that I choreographed many, many years ago, and it's called Aquarelle. It's a duet, and then I expanded it. Aquarelle is a water, it's gouache. What do you call that in English? Sorry, I'm in French now. You put pigment on wet paper. Okay. And the pigment, you put pigment, and then you put a different pigment. And it sometimes mixes, so it deepens the color, and sometimes it stays its own color, depending on how much water there is on the paper and so on. So I'm using that as a metaphor for love relationship, where each individual is a color, but each individual is transformed by the fusion of the colors. And I had to create very liquid movement quality. So water is very important for me. In fact, when I can, with the virus, I cannot right now, but I usually swim 20 minutes every day, nonstop. Water is an important element. And you can create the feeling of water through fluidity in Western dance. In fact, Odissi is closer to water than, for example, Bharatanatyam. Oh, and also Kathak. Kathak is like a waterfall sometimes, you know? You don't describe, for example, in Western dance, you wouldn't do, oh my God, look at this beautiful flower. You wouldn't do, oh my God, look at this bee and so on. You wouldn't do that in Western dance. We don't have that language. But you can create it through quality of movement. You can create air. In fact, classical ballet is very suited to create air because it defies gravity. So you have those flying figures with a lot of jumps. Feet that could look, they're moving so fast, they could look like the wings of a hummingbird. It's created not through description, but through the quality of the movement.
The qualities of nature more than nature itself.
Exactly. So fluidity or airborne. You can create earthiness. That I've done a lot.
Space.
Space is always present in Western dance.
गीतांजलि जी,
जी।
आप यदि हिंदी में उनका बीच में ट्रांसलेट करेंगे ना तो सम्राट बेहतर समझ पाएंगे। आप प्लीज।
हाँ, तो इन्होंने बहुत बहुत अच्छे से समझाया है कि पाश्चात्य नृत्य में प्रकृति जैसे हम अपने भारतीय शास्त्रीय नृत्य में, जैसे उन्होंने अपने हाथ से एकदम जैसे भौरा आया हो या एक फूल खिला हो, ये अपन लोग बिल्कुल अपने हाथों से करके दिखा देते हैं। तो पाश्चात्य नृत्य में ऐसा नहीं होता, लेकिन जो उसकी जो प्रक्रियाएं हैं, जैसे उसकी जो धातु गुण हैं, उसके जो एलिमेंटल गुण हैं, प्रकृति के जो एलिमेंटल गुण हैं, उनको प्रकट करते हैं पाश्चात्य नृत्य में।
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
तो उनको वो प्रकट करते हैं, ना कि साक्षात।
है आप जो बात कर रही थी ना कि ये फूल है, तो ये मुद्राएं इंडियन डांस में है, वो
हाँ।
वेस्टर्न में नहीं है।
नहीं।
वो जो तत्व है उसके,
हाँ।
वो बात ठीक
हाँ,
है, बहुत अच्छा।
तत्व से ही उनका जो भी प्रकृति की ओर आता है, वो तत्वों को ही प्रकट करते हैं।
गीतांजलि जी, आप मुझसे पूछिए कि वायु यदि बताना है,
वायु के
वायु बताना है तो
Yeah.
किस तरीके से होगा?
How do you depict air or the breeze in your Western
flowing.
and
dance?
gravity.
Nai. Nai, nai, nai. Uh, you can create a sense of flight. And also you can create, for example, the sense of suspension, just the quality of the movement. You can create
Yeah.
value. You can create value without a signifiers.
You can create a typhoon, like a violent
But
air.
I do it, I do the Rumi poem, The Guest House. And in the guest house, oh, that's interesting. In the guest house, there is this moment where there is this storm that empties your house of everything, and you
breaks everything. It
Yeah.
takes it away.
So what I do in there, I start, and then I create a huge spiral that falls down to the floor and comes back up, and then it's the end. It doesn't have any signifier, but there is no doubt, just like what is it in Katak Chakar, the turns? Yeah. So it's the same thing, but I use my torso and I fall down to the ground and I come back up. But that pirouette, that ongoing turn, gives you the sense of that tornado.
Spinning vayu.
Spinning vayu. So you can create it without signifiers. That is our challenge in Western dance. We don't have any signifiers. But we do it.
But one thing is for sure, that Professor Patrick is a learning experience, a learning model for us, because the way he has imbibed these dance forms, it has enriched you, and there is so much more to learn from you always. And meanwhile, it's getting late over there, I understand. So with the permission of ma'am, I request Ma'am Geetanjali to just conclude the session with her valuable remarks, please.
My gratitude, my thank you, my namaskara to everybody, especially Patrick Ji, for coming here to educate us, to share with us his beautiful story. And thank you all.
Namaskar.
Namaste. And let me allow me to please close with a Shanti part.
Sure. Please.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha Hari Om आप सबको नमस्कार बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद पुनः मिलेंगे
Namaskar to you as well, ma'am, and thank you for bringing and introducing Professor Patrick with us. It was a great session indeed. So I thank Dr. Geetanjali, I thank Professor Patrick for joining us today. I thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor for joining us today. We have our faculty members also who joined us, so I thank them. I thank Vijay for doing all the means taking after all the technical part. Thank you very much, and thanks to the students who have joined us. And with the hope to meet again in the next week, we conclude today's session. Thank you very much to everyone. Dhanyavad. Thank you, Professor
Dhanyavad.
Patrick from India. Dhanyavad. Yeah.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you.
It was nice. Nice people.
kind of fun